Welcome to Black Hat Windows Security Conference 2002, held February 7th through the 9th in New Orleans, Louisiana. The following videotape was recorded live at the conference and produced by the Sound of Knowledge Incorporated.
I'm Eric Schultze. I'm from Microsoft. I'm part of the Security Strategies team. I've spent the last year to year and a half of my life trying to make this patch madness easier for customers and for ourselves. So I wanted to step you through some things that we've been doing over the past year, year and a half, some things that we're rolling out over the next few months to help all customers out with patch management issues. So we're going to talk about some tools, some processes, methodologies, schemas, and so forth. Feel free to ask questions along the way, and we'll dive right in. So we hope to address the following questions today. How do we know if our enterprise is up to date on patches? How many folks today can feel comfortable that your entire enterprise is up to date on patches, client-side stuff, server stuff? It's a scary proposition, and up until a few months ago, there were really no tools available to do that, especially for server-side things, before Windows Update started carrying IIS and so forth. So I want to cover some tools to show that. How do we know when a new patch has been released? When was the last time that Microsoft released a security patch? Today, yes. Today we released a security patch. So how do you know? How can you be alerted to these things? How do we know that the patch is still valid on the system? How many times have you installed something, yet the files were later overwritten by something else, and you don't know if that patch is still valid on your system? Maybe you installed IIS patches, you went back, and then you reinstalled your web server. Did you overwrite the patches or not? Well, we'll show you how you can tell. How can I deploy patches to all of these machines, short of walking around to each one individually and executing it? And what is Microsoft planning to do to make it easier to get these patches deployed going forward and to do the assessments and the validation? So we're going to talk about the process. How do we understand what's available? How do we scan the network to see what needs it? How do we deploy these patches? And how do we validate that they're still on the system? First step in this process, if you're not already signed up, sign up for the Security Bulletin Notification Service at Microsoft. You can take down this URL. I'll also make the slides available on blackhat.com website so you can pull down this slideshow later. Subscribe to the Security Bulletin Notification Service, and you'll get an email with a couple paragraphs telling you that there's a new bulletin available you can read on the Microsoft website. That's a must. Windows Update will automatically tell you that the new patch is available to be downloaded for your system. Windows Update lags the actual release of the patch from anywhere from a couple hours to a couple weeks, potentially, depending where in the cycle the Windows Update is. So if you want to get the instant notification, then keep subscribed to the Bulletin Notification Service. Has anyone tried the Client Update Notification applet? I haven't used it myself. It's a little tool that can run on the system and apparently lets you know when there's a new either bulletin or patch available. It's part of the STPP CD-ROM that Microsoft shipped. But again, I can't speak to it because I haven't used it. How many folks use HFNetCheck? Great. All right. Well, that's my tool, so we're going to only say good things about it today. So how can we tell which machines need which patches? We know that there's a lot of security bulletins out there. We want to see what might be vulnerable, what needs the patch. A tool called HFNetCheck. If you go to this KB article 303.215 on the Microsoft site, or if you go to support.microsoft.com, you can type in that KB number. It'll pull up an article that talks about the tool, and it gives you links to download the tool. HFNetCheck grew out of another tool, an earlier tool called HFCheck that worked for IIS 5 web servers, where it would tell you that there's a new bulletin available for your web server that you have yet to deploy. People really liked the HFCheck idea, so we wanted to extend it to include the operating system, Internet Explorer, SQL Server, and we'll be extending this to include additional products. It's a command line tool that you can run on your system, and it will tell you if you've already applied certain patches or what patches you have yet to apply that you really should. And it'll do this for NT4, Windows 2000, Windows XP, IIS 4.5, 5.1, SQL Server to a limited extent, and Internet Explorer 5.01 and later. And I'll show you a demo of that in just a moment. In fact, right now. This is a command line tool called HFNetCheck. And I'm going to launch this with a couple parameters. I want to use a local copy of the XML file, and we're going to spend a few minutes talking about the XML file. But since I don't have an internet connection here, we're going to use my local copy. I want to scan a range of machines, an IP address range, in this case 3 different machines. And I'm going to scan it using the username administrator from the black domain and the password of test123. So I'll launch this off as we talk about this. It's going to show us right off the bat the XML data version and the date that this XML file was last updated. So we can see, are we using a current copy of this data file that contains information on the security patches? And as we go to release new XML files, we'll keep incrementing the data version number and updating the date so you can see that you indeed have the latest one. And it's going to run through and give us a little status report as it scans these machines, and we'll step through and talk specifically what it's doing. And it should give us a nice detailed report here in just a minute. We also have a news group on Microsoft.com. It's a news.microsoft.com server, and it's called microsoft.public.security.hfnetcheck, where we discuss this tool. Oops, where is my cursor? So we'll look at the results. First off, this was written for us by one of our gold certified partners, Shavlik Technologies at shavlik.com. They went ahead and put this together for us. I'll show you an advanced tool that they do also, but they've done a wonderful job, so I want to thank them for their work. As we start to scan this, it shows us what we've scanned. In this case, the .98 box is running Windows XP Gold. And by gold, that means a machine that does not have any service pack on it yet. And we see that it's missing 2 patches that have yet to be applied that I can apply to this machine. It shows the bulletin number, the security bulletin number, in this case 01-054 and 059. So if you go to the Microsoft website, you could look up these security bulletins. Or you can look them up by the Q numbers or the knowledge base article numbers through the Microsoft website. We also see a patch missing for IE6 Gold with no service pack. I have a Windows 2000 Gold box here, and this kind of highlights of how difficult it is to keep up to date on all the patches. There's so many patches that have to be applied to a Gold system, and you still won't get it up to date. We've stopped releasing security patches that you can apply to Windows 2000 Gold. So the first thing it tells me is that I'm not running the latest service pack on this machine. The latest service pack is SP2. So I probably want to update this machine to SP2, then run this tool again to see what patches are available. And I've got these lists of additional security fixes that I should apply. IIS patches, IE patches. Now here's a Service Pack 2 machine. And it looks like I'm up to date on all my operating system patches, but I am missing a patch here for IE, 02-001. Does anyone know what this patch is? Just released like a week ago. This is the Windows 2000 Post Service Pack 2 Security Rollup Package number 1. It contains 30 or 40 some security bulletins all rolled together into one big hot fix. So I've applied it, and it still holds true for the operating system. And I've already applied this patch, and then I ran HFNetCheck, and I said, well, why is it coming up and telling me that I haven't applied this patch? And we'll look at that in just a minute as well. And we can also see for SQL Server 2000, I'm not running the latest service pack, and I may or may not have addressed certain security patches here. If I run this again, and I'm going to change my IPs 99. Whoops. I'm going to scan an IP address this time, and I'm also going to stick in 2 additional switches. I want to see why it's telling me that it's not installed on this particular box. -V for verbose and -Z for skip the registry checks. Whoops. So now this is going to go and just scan that one machine, and it'll show me why it thinks that this particular patch isn't applied. In this case, I had applied the patch, but I had gone back to IIS, and I installed FTP server on the IIS. And when I installed FTP, it overwrote some of the hotfix files, so I then regressed some of the files on my system, so it's not still up to date. And that's what it should tell me here in a minute. It took an extra minute to launch off because it's trying to obtain what the host name is. If it can find out what the host name is, it'll show me both the host name and the IP address in the results. There's also switches. You can put in domain names, and you can launch this against a domain. You can type in -n and launch this against your entire network and have a lot of fun with it. All right, in this case, it's telling me, whoops, FTP CTRS2 has an invalid checksum, and the file version is equal to or less than what is expected. So it's not the file that it expects to see. So I know that I have a bad file on the system. I probably want to go ahead and reapply this particular patch to make sure that I'm up to date, and then it should run clean. And we see for IE issues as well, the particular files that it expects to find, it doesn't find those files, so we know that we're not up to date. And we have a complete command line syntax you can look at. It doesn't look so pretty here, but you can see examples of how to launch HFNetCheck, what all the different switches do, the domain switches, network switches, suppressing certain messages, output files. Do you want to have tab delimited output? Do you want to write the results to an out file? Do you want to use an input file? I won't go in detail here. You can read the Q article, and it's all explained in that. So how does HFNetCheck work? The first thing it does is it has to obtain the data file to know what hotfixes are available for what platforms. So the tool will usually go out to the internet, to the Microsoft.com site, and it will download a copy of the mssecure.xml file. It's about a meg in size. So to make it a quicker download, we compress it into a cab file. And when it's in a cab file format, we can also digitally sign it so you know it's coming from Microsoft. Because the last thing I'd like to have happen is for someone to hijack your DNS, point it to some evil site, and have you download some evil cab file or some evil XML file that tells you that your box is up to date when it's really not. So we sign everything, and HFNetCheck will check the signature, and if it's properly signed by Microsoft, it'll expand it and use it. If it's not signed by Microsoft, it'll pop up warnings and tell you. Now, if you happen to be working on a disconnected system, you can download this file from one of your internet systems, put it on a floppy disk, carry it over to your disconnected system, load up the file, and you can actually use a local copy of the XML file. It'll then check, the tool, HFNetCheck, will check itself to see whether or not it's running the latest version of HFNetCheck. So in the XML file that comes down to your box, we put on what the latest version of HFNetCheck should be. And if you're not running the latest version, we'll give you a little message that'll say, a new version of the tool is available, please go and download it. You can continue to use the old version of the tool if you like, or you can go grab the new one. Once it's done that, it'll go out to all the machines that you've got. It'll identify the language of the operating system that you're running, the operating system level, service pack level, and what versions of IE, SQL, and IIS, and so forth that you're running. It'll then go into the XML file and it'll identify all the hotfixes that are available for those particular operating system service packs platforms. Because you don't want a patch that's applicable to Windows 2000 Gold if you're running Windows 2000 SP2. You only want to see the SP2 patches. What's really nice too is that if we released a security rollup hotfix, it includes all the post-SP2 hotfixes. So there might be 17 post-SP2 hotfixes. You don't need to apply all 17. You only need to apply the one hotfix. So the XML file maintains information about supersedences and which bulletins supersede which other bulletins and patches. So we'll only show you what's necessary to be applied to be current. So we see in this case, I've got this little tool I use to manage the XML file. I've got bulletin 01-048. In this case, it's applicable to Windows NT Workstation servers, NT Service Pack 6A. So you're only going to see this if you're running 6A. And you can see the SQ number 305399, so you know the queue number it goes to. I have a little summary information in there about what the bulletin says. We'll talk about some new features we're putting into this shortly. So for each hotfix, we're going to go in and look in your system's registry to see whether or not you have the registry key that correlates with having installed this hotfix. If we don't see the registry key on your system, then we'll assume the hotfix has not been applied, and we'll kick out a message that says patch not applied. If we do see the hotfix applied, we'll go on to the next check. Now, how many folks roll their own hotfixes? I know Microsoft does sometimes, other folks do. So you may not write registry keys, so you don't want to receive false positives, so you can use a -Z switch, which will disable the registry keys altogether. We won't even check registry keys. We'll go straight to the next step, which is file checks. Let's see. So if the key does exist, or if you've ignored the key, then we're going to go and we're going to check the file version of every file in that patch and the checksum of all those files to make sure that what we shipped in the patch is actually what is installed on your system. So in this case, we've got 3 files in this particular patch. And we can see the file versions over on the right-hand side. We can see the checksums it expects to see, the path on the system of where we would expect to find this particular file, and the file date and so forth. So a lot of good file details in here. If either the file version or the checksum are not correct, then we're going to throw up a warning message or a patch not found message to tell you that there might be a missing patch on this system. There might be a case where an attacker has modified or put a Trojan version of one of these files on your system, in which case they may not get the file version right, they may not get the checksum right, so we're going to flag that and tell you. Or they might make the file version really, really new, in which case we're going to throw up a warning message and say, hey, the file version, this is newer than what we expect. You might want to go check it out because something might be wrong with it. So if anything doesn't match, we'll throw up warnings or patch not installed messages. But when you run HFNetCheck and it's going to verify if a patch has been applied or not, it's always going to go check file versions and checksums. And we're going to check some additional things in some future versions as well. So this is one way you can use to validate your if you've applied a patch or not. Moving forward, we're going to extend the XML file and the hotfix checking to support more than just English language patches. We're going to actually include patch details for all languages. We're going to have download URLs for each specific patch for each language. So you can, third-party developers can write tools to parse the XML file, and you can pull out the specific download patch, and you can automatically go and download the patch from Microsoft if you choose to do that. So all this data will be available. We're going to record the hotfix installer engine. Does it use the update.exe, hotfix.exe? Is it an Internet Explorer hotfix installer? What switches are available for quiet mode, no reboot mode? All the different modes of installer engines will record for every patch. So you can programmatically determine what you might want to do to auto-install the patch. We're going to record the MD5 and SHA-1 hashes for all these files. So it's going to make it tougher for people to try to fool the system. So that we can then compare using any of these file hash values. Specific file locations. Where would we expect to find the file on the box? If you're running multiple versions of SQL Server and you've created virtual roots, We can peer in the registry to determine where the file should be and report on it. If you've got multi-proc versus single proc boxes, we have different files. We're going to record those pieces. 32-bit versus 64-bit systems, you can check. Severity data. We've included severity data on security bulletins for every patch. We'll include that in the XML file and give you some switches so you can only view the most severe issues or all the issues. We'll include links to CVE data so you can then cross-reference it back to other vulnerability databases. And we'll also record what types of reboot actions might be required after you've applied the patch. So we have a lot of cool data that we record about every single fix that we do. All this, plus all the file specifics, file versions, some summary bulletin data in the XML file that's on the Microsoft website, freely available. You can bring it down, parse it yourself. You can write third-party tools or leverage third-party tools that will read this XML file and go from there. I also like to encourage if there's other vendors that are interested in doing a similar thing. Let's see the rest of the world also adopt similar methods to help patch our systems. Moving on. We've now checked our hot fixes on these boxes, but what else is Microsoft coming out with? We have going into beta, I believe, or it might already be out in beta as a couple days ago, the Microsoft Baseline Security Analyzer. And this is something that we announced back a few months ago during our big security push, that you can scan your network, and we're going to look for hot fixes, weak passwords, operating system IIS, and SQL configuration issues. So you can scan your network and get back a report of what this stuff looks like. And I'll pull up a sample report here. So I'll pull one up a little bit bigger in a moment, and we'll take a look at it. I did a scan earlier. It's going to be a freely downloadable tool from Microsoft. And we'll pick this one. So we can see here in this case that restrict anonymous is good. Password expiration is not set. Some other stuff. We'll come down to SQL Server. My security mode for SQL Server is running in mixed mode, and it really should be running in Windows NT mode only. So how do I correct this? I can click on this and pull up a little, pull up a little web page that tells me about this particular issue. So a lot of cool stuff. So you can scan your entire network, your domain, various IP ranges, and see the security configuration settings on these various boxes, as well as hot fixes, IIS hot fixes, result details. And it tells me the one particular patch that I'm missing. It's running HFNetCheck in the background. So there's some really cool stuff here that's going to be coming out again as a free tool, and you can look for this shortly. So now you've identified machines that need various sets of patches. How do we push these patches out? How many folks use SMS? Okay, I've got an SMS solution for you that's really neat. Third-party tools and some Active Directory group policy pieces. The SMS solution first. We've released a support tools kit for SMS 2.0. It's got a little plug-in. I'm not sure if you can kind of see it from there. For patches. You can do a software report for patches, and you can actually then see what patches have been applied, not applied. SMS is actually pushing a copy of HFNetCheck down to each managed machine. HFNetCheck runs on the local machine, determines the patch is installed, not installed, reports it back to the SMS console where we can then view reports of what's been installed, not installed. There's then a patch deployment tool in here where you can wrap up a hotfix as an MSI file and push it out to these machines on their next SMS inventory collection. So there's some cool stuff there for SMS customers. Third-party tools. I have an example of one up here. This is HFNetCheck Pro written by Shavlik. We can go ahead and do a scan to see what we need. We get a GUI report back of HFNetCheck, and we can see the results to see all the patches that are missing. And then we can right-click on a particular patch and click the deploy button. And the deploy button is going to tell us that we can take this particular patch and push it out to that remote machine that's missing it, or group of machines. And we can schedule it to be deployed on a certain date. We can force it to do it now and reboot the machine. We can put it out there and say, next admin login, deploy the particular hotfix. So there's a lot of neat features in it that you can use to get it deployed. And we can check the status of deployment. Oops, let's see where my cursor is. We got a little deployment history tab. We'll let that run. It should tell us what's queued up to go at what certain time. We'll let that think and come back to it in a minute. Come on. Oh, here we go. So for this particular box, I've pushed out there. I was trying to push out a particular patch. In this case, it didn't take. I had an error on the machine. But I can see that at a certain date and time, I wanted this particular patch to fire. So there's some cool stuff in this HF NetCheck Pro version that you can execute. Group policy and MSI patches. We can do some cool stuff with this. Future patches that Microsoft creates, future roll-up packages, will ship both as an executable and as an MSI, a Microsoft Software Installer package. So you can take this MSI package, put it into your group policy for a particular organizational unit, and so the next time these machines log into the OU, they're going to pick up this group policy, and this particular hotfix is going to be installed on the box. To create these, we can use SMS to create MSI packages. Install Shield is a third-party provider. We'll create the MSI packages. I think I've got a picture of a group policy that I have, and I wanted to shove out this particular patch called Windows Support Tools as an MSI. I can shove that out, and I can assign it to a box so that the next time that machine joins, it's going to go ahead and pick up that particular patch and get it dropped to the system. So if you're in the Active Directory and group policy stages, you can deploy your hotfixes this way going forward. If you have SMS, you can use the SMS deployment kit to deploy the hotfixes. And if you don't, then you can use a third-party tool like the Shavlik tool to go ahead and copy the patches out there and get them installed. Once these patches are installed out there, how can you verify that the patch is indeed on the box? If you want to validate it, just go ahead and run HF NetCheck again, and it'll validate that, in fact, this thing is on the system. Corporate version of Windows Update is another tool that we're coming out with, should be releasing shortly. This allows you to take the Microsoft Windows Update service and bring it into your own organization. So you can run your own Windows Update server behind your firewall. This corporate WU server will go out your firewall via port 80 up to the Microsoft Windows Update server, will download catalog files and patches down to your corporate WU server. So you get an exact copy of everything it has. As an administrator, you can then pick and choose the particular patches that you want to have deployed to your organization or made available to your organization. So if you don't like a particular patch or don't need it, just don't associate it and it won't get pushed out. You can then install the corporate Windows Update clients on your machines, Windows 2000, NT4, Windows XP, and those particular Windows Update clients will point to this Windows Update server. And that's controlled either through group policy or through a registry key that you deploy this with to say, look to this particular internal server. Don't ever go to Microsoft, but go to our internal corporate server and pick up the patches. Now, if this particular end user doesn't install those patches within a specified amount of time, you can tell it to automatically, through Active Directory, you can tell it to automatically deploy XYZ patch if they haven't picked it up within 3 days. And their machine will automatically get slammed with that patch and rebooted. So you've got some good management control centrally, particularly if you're in an Active Directory environment, to see that these machines get patched. And that'll also, I believe, be a free product. It'll be available for download for use and should be coming out any day. So what else is Microsoft doing around this security area? By now, the email from Bill Gates has leaked out publicly on trustworthy computing, our initiatives to make security as ever-present as telephone service and electricity. So we're doing a big security push at the moment. We're focusing a lot of energy and resources in setting up ongoing processes and procedures and threat assessments on every single line of code that we've got to really make this thing more secure. We decided to do roll-up packages. So instead of having to install one-off patches, every couple of months approximately, we'll release one big hotfix for the latest version of the software and service pack. Say Windows 2000 Service Pack 2 Security Rollup Pack. It'll include all the earlier hotfixes, so it's all cumulative with everything in it. We might start bundling these as MSI files so that you can start installing them through Active Directory, Group Policy, and through SMS. We're looking to ways that we can increase the no reboot patches. So if you're running an IIS server, you can apply the IIS patch. It might stop the service and then restart the service, but you don't have to reboot your system to get this patch applied. So where we can do that, we're going to start doing that more and more, and we're going to note those behaviors in the XML file so you can see what's going on. And we're also coming out with additional tools similar to HFNetCheck, Microsoft Baseline Security Analyzer, and so forth will be coming out with new features. And certainly I sit back and think about this stuff all the time. How can we make it easier for customers? So I'm trying to come up with ideas, give them to the product teams. If any of you have ideas, go ahead and send them in to me at this email, and I'll see if I can get these things incorporated. Regarding HFNetCheck, we have an alias called HFNetCheck at Microsoft.com, and we have a news group as well. I try to answer all questions that come into those news groups and email aliases so people can get the support on running these tools. If you go look at security bulletins, Microsoft.com/security, and view security bulletins, that web page that lists the security bulletins also runs off the same XML file. So you can see which particular hotfixes are applicable for which service packs, which products. So again, we're kind of tying all this stuff together to make it very easy to go. And I've absolutely cruised through this presentation, so I'll, people have questions, HFNetCheck, patch deployment. Yes? Corporate update is delayed a little bit. It's, again, hopefully a couple months. Okay, within a couple months, it'll be out. I know that we're trying to get this thing really nice. What's really nice about Corporate Update is they've spent a lot of time looking at the security technology so that when they download a patch to your system, you can be guaranteed that it is indeed a valid Microsoft patch and it's not some rogue third-party Trojan evil patch. Because that's anytime you get into the auto patch download business, you got to be really nervous about whether or not you're getting the right patch. Yes? Will Corporate Update support SSL? And at this point, no, it does not support SSL due to the fact that it will not, that the patches will not get accepted by the WU server unless they're the signed Microsoft packages. So even if you are DNS redirected to somewhere else, it's going to pull the patches down, but it's not going to be able to accept packages into the system because they're not signed by Microsoft, and they go through quite a lengthy signing and testing process on that. Will it start using the real signatures? You can verify them using SIGVerif.
Right, but I mean, like for example, if you have a policy to not allow unsigned applications, hotfixes will always pop up with that.
Okay, so if you've set the policy to say do not allow unsigned applications to install, that's going to a different level because then it's checking every patch, every file that gets installed. And we don't sign some of the underlying files, but the package itself is signed, so that's another issue. And we can take that up offline, and we can see where we can go with that. Any other questions? Anyone played with the latest HFNetCheck 3.3.2 version that we just shipped? It's working out pretty good. We had a couple little issues we've cleaned up lately. Yes? Yeah.
That you added FTP server. How did that happen? I thought doesn't it pull files from SPC.cat file? And I mean, look to that to know which files to install.
Okay, so the question is, when you install a new service, shouldn't it pull the files from the latest service pack cab so you get the latest files for that service? And in this case, when I installed FTP on my IIS server, it pulled the FTP files from the Service Pack 2 cache that was on the system, but I had updated this, I had installed files that were newer than the Service Pack 2 cache that were from 02-001, and those hotfix files are not put into a cache.
Well, when you install a hotfix, it updates sp2.cat, the catalog file for all the files in that hotfix. So those aren't updated?
In this case, when this particular hotfix does not put everything into the caches, so I thought it did, and I was mistaken, and it turns out that it did not update all my files, and only by running hfnetcheck did I find out that, in fact, I was running an earlier version of the file. Now, maybe future SRPs will do a better job of writing stuff into the cache files.
So in that case, any add remove component will have that same problem. Anytime you're adding new files or anything like that.
Okay, so the question then, if you're using other add remove components, will it pull from the cache or not? It depends if the patch wrote the files to the cache or not. In this case, it wrote some files to the cache and other ones it didn't. So it's really on a one-off basis.
So then what you're saying is that there is no way to know when you add remove components. There's no way right now to be sure, because apparently that's not the policy. Be sure that you don't have to reapply hotfix.
Yes.
Really challenging for if you're going to install, say, just like what Eric did, he installed FTP after he installed IIS. So I run IIS for 6 months and I add all the hotfixes and everything else. And I go back into the Windows setup and I say, please install FTP on top of this. Well, there's an INF in Windows that says these are the files, this is how you set up FTP. In order for us to set up a system that would make sure that you got the most current files, we would have to look into that and then have it go out and check somewhere to get what are the most current files for this new system.
That's what I understand what the sp2.cat file did. It was the most current file. So Eric,
Yes.
We run into that initial install problem where the installation information for how to install this says it goes to, okay, well, I'm wrong, not good.
From the product support services standpoint, the SRP1 did not include functionality. You weren't able to get it in, but SRP2 is slated to include the functionality where we update the caps so that you don't have to add remove components. It just wasn't able to be fitted into SRP1.
There's a couple pieces of the SRP. We're going to see some additional things like MSI, like additional reg key values and so forth in future SRPs. It was a big effort putting out the security rollup package because there were just 100 and some odd files that we pushed out. And there's a lot of testing that goes into verifying that every single file fixes every vulnerability that was out there. But again, I wouldn't have, without running hfnetcheck, I would have assumed the file was updated when indeed it wasn't. So I'm glad that I did run hfnetcheck to see that. Yeah, so I run hfnetcheck all the time. You can schedule hfnetcheck to run on a nightly basis and output things into various output files and review them. So I have a new version of hfnetcheck that fixed one issue. I forget what it was. So one minor little issue, but I'll make those available pretty soon as well. So hopefully go home, play with hfnetcheck, look for corporate Windows Update, look for the baseline security analyzer coming out when that comes out. Take a look at these things, try them out on your systems.
I've been to a couple shows. Does anybody here know what the catalog site is or the old corporate site for Windows Update? Anybody here heard of that? Yeah, it's now in the catalog. But if you have a large organization, you want to download all the stuff that's on Windows Update, you can actually go up there and do an index search based on products and even drivers.
I think if you go to windowsupdate.com, there's something where you can click on catalog and view it, and then you can get into the corporate download center where you can grab all the patches for everything, not just those related to your own system. All right, well, barring any other questions, I'll be available later. You can certainly email me here and take a look at these tools, give them a try, and let me know what you think. Thanks.
Eric, Chip Andrews.